Hi everyone, welcome to Writer's Corner. I'm Radrani and I'm from Tilsley Creative Writers. And once again I'll be reading another chapter from this book. Lessons from the Ramayana by Sri Chaudhary. And in today's video I'll be reading Lesson 5 and I hope you like it. So here we go. Lesson 5. Don't offend a saint even inadvertently. The curse of a saint makes even a mighty monarch humble. Ordinarily, a man reacts violently if he is wronged. But a man who is exceptionally good and who has subdued the evil in him to a large extent will not spring to his feet and with a pistol in his hand run after the man who has wronged him. Yet there arises in his heart anger. It is what we call the good man's anger. This good man's anger often expresses itself in the form of an utterance of pain or the feeling of being wounded. That itself may pass by the name curse. A good man's curse may have its effect on the wrongdoer in course of time. But in our day-to-day life in this material world, we may not perceive any link between the good man's curse and the wrongdoer's suffering. In other words, we do not trace a man's suffering or tragedy to the cause of his wronging a certain good man. Yet the effect, of course, remains a common belief, though it may not be a scientifically established truth. In ancient India there were many sages. They renounced worldly riches and worldly pleasures. They dwelt in forest and spent long years in deep meditation and penance. They were rich in the wealth of tapas. Tapas means setting mind and heart on God and continuing to utter the name of God continuously till divine grace descends on him. Such sages would subdue the 6 internal enemies: lust, anger, greed, infatuation, pride and jealousy. In their eyes, none was their enemy. They used to enjoy peace and tranquility. Such sages were highly honoured even by the mighty monarchs. They got some powers, sattvic in nature. That means power of non-violent nature. Gandhiji's satyagraha during freedom struggle had in it a reflection of the sattvic power of the ancient sages of our land. The curse suffered by Sarada. Unable to bear separation from his dear Rama, Sarada lies on bed sunk in deep sorrow and remorse. He feels that death is drawing near. Then the past events flash on his mind. He asks Rama's mother to be close to him so that she may hear what he says in a feeble voice. He says thus: Kausalya, I wish to tell you why I suffer like this or why I die like this. When I was young, I was fond of hunting. I prided myself on my power to hit the target merely on hearing sound, though it was not visible. Once I heard a gurgling sound in the forest. I thought that an elephant was drinking water. The hunter in me was roused. I hit the target with a sharp arrow. At once I heard a cry of pain and agony. I rushed to the spot. I was horrified. What I saw was not an elephant. I saw a young ascetic in a pool of blood, mortally wounded by my arrow. He narrated to me how his blind parents would be waiting for him for water. He indicated to me the path leading to the cottage where his old parents were. He asked me to give water to his parents and to take good care of them. The young ascetic breathed his last, expressing deep concern for his helpless parents. I dragged my steps with a heavy load of sorrow and sin in my heart to the cottage of the old ascetic couple. They were eagerly looking forward to the arrival of their son. I steeled my heart and in trembling voice informed them of their bereavement. They fell down in heartbroken grief. After a while they asked me to lead them to the mortal remains of their son. The old sage and his wife clasped the dead body of their son and wept bitterly in deep agony. The sage consigned the dead body of the son to the flames with my help. After that he turned to me and said, "O young prince, you are a good one. You regret your inadvertent crime. You have come to me and confessed your guilt. Your goodness restrains my anger from breaking your head into pieces. Yet you cannot escape the consequences of your action. You have unintentionally caused me pangs of separation from my son, who is our sole support in our old age. You also suffer like me the pangs of separation from your son, whom you love most, and die of that mortal agony." After saying these horrible words, or rather uttering this terrible curse, he sat in yogic pose and burnt himself with fire produced from his body. His wife too dropped dead into the flames. The ascetic couple were thus reduced to ashes. I returned home with a heavy heart. In the midst of pain-filled thoughts, I could not help a smile at the thought that the old man's curse should first bless me with sons. You know, I was then unmarried and had no children. Years rolled on. Time threw that incident into the shade of oblivion. But now, when I am in my last moments, the incident comes to my mind in all poignancy. I suffer for what I have done. The fire of separation from my dear son burns me. Saying these words, Sarada gasps and breathes his last with the words Rama, Lakshmana, Sita on his lips. This episode shows how the curse of a good man works. Those who intentionally mock at sages and subject good people to tyranny and torture must take the lesson that the curse will take effect sooner or later. In Dasarada's case, the effect of the curse has become softened a little because he repented for what he had done unknowingly. Ahalya. Ahalya is a paragon of beauty with irresistible charms. Indra, who is notorious for his weakness for feminine beauty, desires to take her. To accomplish his purpose, he disguises himself as Rishi Gautama and goes to her ashram when her husband is away performing his morning ablutions in the river. Ahalya takes Indra in his disguise to be her own husband and does not resist his advances. The Rishi Gautama sees Indra going away from his cottage. He understands the foul play of Indra. Anger swells up in his heart. That anger expresses itself in the form of a curse. As a result, Indra, though lord of the heaven, suffers loss of manhood. The effect of the curse is immediate. The offence done against a saint never goes unpunished. Though the lapse of Ahalya is not intentional or wanton, she has also become victim to sage Gautama's curse. She lies there in the ashram in the form of a stone till Lord Rama touches the stone with his foot and purifies her. A sage or saint does not resort to violence or retaliate an offence like an ordinary man. They are always in a blissful state which results from self-conquest. They have passions under their control. They never offend anybody, and in their way of life there will be no lapse or ground that justifies an outrage on them. They are perfectly faultless and pure. They live in solitude, away from the din and bustle of town life. They lead a simple and unostentatious life above the law of riches and power. Here there is nothing in their way of life or behavior that provokes anger of others. They envy none, and none envies them. Under these circumstances, any outrage committed on them evokes their righteous indignation, which takes the form of a curse. Sometimes some innocent persons also become victims to a sage's curse. It is unexpected coincidence brought about by fate. In the case of Sarada, the mistaken coincidence is a gurgling sound of a jar being filled with water, with that of an elephant drinking water. In the case of Ahalya, the mistaken coincidence is Indra's disguise as Gautama. Ahalya is more a victim of Indra's deceit than perpetrator of breach of trust with her husband. Yet her saintly husband curses her. Ahalya, in her prayer addressed to Rama on her regaining her original human form at the touch of his feet, says thus, "My Lord, my husband's curse has proved to be a blessing in my case. Had he not cursed me, I would not have had the thrill of touch of your holy feet, the feet that are washed by Brahma, the feet that the great devotees enshrine in their hearts." The example of Ahalya conveys to us a lesson that a holy sage's curse carries with it grace also, and the victim of the curse is the better for it. Perhaps he emerges the wiser, the nobler, and the happier. The anticipatory curse, Lakshmana Rekha. Even a great warrior may simultaneously be a great saint. Piety, practice of virtues, meditation, scrupulous avoidance of excesses may develop in a man spiritual energy and power. But he will not utilize that power in the form of a curse to punish evil doers. To punish evildoers, a warrior uses physical force. Though he has enough spiritual power, he won't curse in the ordinary circumstances. Lakshmana is in the cottage standing guard when Rama is away pursuing the golden deer. Rama kills the golden deer, which is really Maricha, a wicked Rakshasa. Maricha, while dying, cries in the tone of Rama, "Ah, Sita, ah, Lakshmana," as though he is badly in need of help. Sita hears the agonized cry and asks Lakshmana to rush to his brother's rescue. But Lakshmana gently tells her that it is all the network of deception caused by the Rakshasas, and that Rama, who is invincible, will come home safely after killing the Rakshasa. But Sita, who is impulsive, prevails upon Lakshmana to go at once. In her over-anxiety for the safety of Rama, she even uses harsh words to force Lakshmana to go. As Lakshmana tarries and explains the need for his stay there to guard her, she cuts him to the quick by attributing evil motives to him. She even threatens to kill herself if Lakshmana does not move. Under these circumstances, Lakshmana has no alternative but to go in search of his brother. If he goes, Sita may fall in danger. By going away, leaving Sita alone, he will be disobeying his brother, who has given him strict instructions not to leave Sita alone under any circumstance. So, Lakshmana evokes his spiritual powers to utter an anticipatory curse. He draws with his arrow a line and utters a curse that who crosses that arrow line will be consumed by fire. So Sita will be safe as long as she remains within that line. He begs her not to go out of that line, whatever may be the temptation or provocation. After the departure of Lakshmana, when Sita is alone, Ravana comes to the hermitage to abduct her. But as he approaches the line, flames leap towards him and keep him off. Unable to cross the line, he appeals to Sita to come out of that line to give him alms. He is in the disguise of a sannyasi who begs alms. Believing him to be a harmless beggar, she goes out of the line to give him alms. Of course, Ravana carries her off when once she comes out of the protection of the line, Lakshmana Rekha. Ravana, who has conquered even the Devas by his power of arms and who is reputed for his strength, bravery and valour, is not able to ignore the anticipatory curse of the prince. Such is the greatness of Sattvic power, non-violent spiritual power. Brute force is nothing before spiritual power. Matanga Rishi. Matanga is a great rishi. In his ashrama, perfect peace prevails. Man, bird and beast live in all amity there in the ashram, which is beautified by trees, plants and flowering creepers. The Rishi Matanga is very particular of the purity, piety and peace in the surroundings as he does his penance and meditation. Vali happens to fight with a demon, Dandubi by name. He kills Dandubi. In his anger, he lifts the body of the demon and hurls it to a long distance. It is to him a child's play to hurl such a huge and heavy body. The drops of blood fall in the ashram of Matanga as the body of Dandubi flies in the air, hurled by Vali. The sage Matanga wakes up from his meditation in disquietude as the drops of blood wet the sanctum. He divines the cause for the fall of drops of blood. He understands Vali to be the miscreant. Anger swells up in him and it forms itself into an utterance of anticipatory curse. If Vali happens to set foot within a radius of 8 miles from his ashram, his head will be broken into pieces. His curse is not a punishment for Vali's present rash action. It is only a precautionary measure to keep off the villain and rule out further possibilities of pollution. Just as Ravana is not able to cross the line guarded by the curse of Lakshmana, Vali is not able to enter the area of ashram guarded by Matangi. The curse proves to be a godsend to Sugriva, who takes shelter in the area forbidden to Vali and thus escapes his torture. Vali, in spite of his physical strength, bravery, skill and power, has to bow before the curse of sage. So potent is the sattvic power, non-violent power arising out of practice of piety and penance. The great Rishi Vishwamitra proposes to perform a yaga in his ashram, but cruel demons led by Tataki, Maricha and Subho attempt to disrupt the yaga by shower of blood and unclean matter. So Vishwamitra approaches King Dasarada with a request to send Rama with him so that he may destroy the cruel demons and protect his yaga. But Dasarada, in his fondness for Rama, imagines that his young boy is no match to the demons of huge adamantine frame. He is afraid that it is not safe to entrust the tender lad with such an arduous task. He is also afraid that the irascible sage may curse him for his failure to give him Rama. Then the sage Vasishtha saves the situation by explaining to Dasratha the power of Vishwamitra. Thus, Vishwamitra is in possession of all divine astras. He is well versed in warfare. He is invincible in war. But he has given up his warlike ways and kingly traits. He has, by his own efforts, attained divine powers, the fruit of long years of tapas. He himself can destroy the demons, but he has eschewed war and the use of violence. He gives Rama all his divine astras and makes him kill the demons. Indeed, your dear son becomes a great hero under his guidance. In fact, he does a favor to your son in craving your favor to send Rama with him. Backed by his tapas and spiritual glow, your son Rama, though a lad, will rise to the occasion and bring credit to you. These impassioned words of Vashishta have the desired effect, and thus Sarada entrusts Rama and Lakshmana to the care of Vishwamitra. The yaga Vishwamitra is going to perform does not admit of display of anger. He has to keep his anger under control. Moreover, he does not like to reduce the stock of spiritual merit by indulging anger or uttering curses. He knows the purpose of Rama's birth is to kill the wicked Rakshasas. He wants to initiate Rama into the task he has to do on this earth. A man generally responds to a good gesture of humanity. As one lamp lights up another, so nobleness enkindleth nobleness. A man who keeps company with good men will also become good. Those who are impervious to the good influence of humanity or nobleness are styled Rakshasas. Even the great sages cannot kill the evil in them and make them good. So only God can subdue them by force of arms in war. A Rakshasa needs to be beaten in war in order to be liberated. We find that a great number of these Rakshasas are Rakshasas only as a result of some curse. As they fall at the hands of Rama, they will be liberated from the curse. A sage utters a curse only when he cannot help it. The sages seek the protection of good kings who kill the wicked miscreants. The king respects the sages for their tapas and seeks their blessings. There are two kinds of balas. Bala means strength. One is spiritual strength acquired through penance and practice of virtue. The other is muscle power, bodily strength and military skill. The sages are credited with spiritual strength and the kings are credited with the latter. For the welfare of mankind, kings and sages supplement and complement each other. The sage Vishwamitra is not only well versed in military art of a king, but is also endowed with spiritual strength and mystic powers befitting a sage. Vishwamitra was originally a powerful king. He was a ruler, strong, just and kind. He protected the people well. One day he went to the forest to divert himself with the sport of hunting. It was his custom to honor the sages whenever he went to the forest where their ashramas were situated. Vishwamitra visited the ashram of Vashishta. They admired each other a great deal. Vashishta asked Vishwamitra to stay on with his entourage and take dinner in the ashram. Vishwamitra would not like to give trouble to the sage, so he politely declined the offer first. But on being pressed by the sage, won over by his goodness and courtesy, he agreed to have dinner there. Vashishta, with the help of Kamadhenu, a divine cow, arranged a royal feast to the amazement of the king. The richness, the grandeur and plenitude caused much surprise to the king. He soon learnt it was all due to the power of the divine cow Kamadhenu. So he asked the sage to give the divine cow to him. In exchange for that divine cow, the king offered heaps of gold and countless numbers of cows. But the sage politely refused to part with the cow, which was part of his ascetic life. For his daily routine of worship and religious duties, the divine cow was indispensable. So he gently but firmly said that he would not part with his divine cow, which he described as part of himself. The ego and pride of King Vishwamitra was wounded. So in his intoxication of power and blindness of pride, he ordered his soldiers to capture the divine cow and drive it to the royal household. The divine cow, at the behest of the sage, produced a huge army to match that of the king. There took place a terrible war. Vashishta, with his holy staff planted in front of him, sat in meditation. All the weapons released by Vishwamitra were absorbed by the holy staff. Vishwamitra acquired a good number of divine astras by tapas. Those divine astras were also absorbed by the holy staff. The king was completely vanquished by the non-violent resistance of the sage. It was established beyond any shadow of doubt that the non-violent mystic power of a sage was far superior to the muscle power of a king. King Vishwamitra gave up his kingdom in sheer frustration. He renounced worldly riches and royal splendor. He went to the forest. He spent many years in severe penance, tapas and meditation. His efforts were crowned with success and he became a Brahma Rishi. Even Vashishta recognized him as such. Thus, Vishwamitra the king became Vishwamitra the sage. Vishwamitra's example conveys to us the lesson that the saintly virtues like goodness, gentleness, and benevolence constitute the real wealth and real power. The real need of the hour is a recommunion with the sages of our old, imbibing the virtues, goodness, gentleness, benevolence, and spirit of non-violence. Great good is done to mankind by the saintly persons whose weapons are love and benevolence. We can conclude this lesson with the following immortal words of Shakespeare. Your gentleness shall force more than your force move us to gentleness. The end. That was end of lesson 5, and thank you again for watching. Please share, click like, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you again in the next video when I'll be reading lesson 6. Okay, thank you. Bye.